what Weta is able to do with image on screen is unrivaled. I mean, they have so many great artists there that have such a breadth of what they can do. I mean, we did a very stylized animated short with them, and they can also do Avatar, which is like the most photorealistic, beautiful sort of approach in that style.
We got Peter Jackson's company, Weta, to do the graphics for us, or I guess it's called GFX, and that was sort of miraculous as well, because I don't know how we would have done the film without his help. The amount of work and manpower and computer power is just really a lot, and it was really a blessing.
Sean started texting with Peter. Peter said, "This sounds awesome. Sounds like something that might be right up our alley right now. Why don't you send the script?"
He immediately connected to it because he has a strong interest in both the Beatles and in World War I and war stories in general. It's something that's really of great interest to him. And when he read the script and he wanted to support us and give us the full weight of Weta to help us make this film. And then you get to Weta and the artists there, and they have their special projects division.
I definitely put my hand up to do the show. It seemed really innovative and something completely different.
And when we read the script, we knew right away that we had something really emotional and something very powerful and something very timely. This project is very special because it really marks a transition for WētāFX into the field of animation. We've been doing a lot of animated shorts over the past couple of years, but they've been exploratory, and they've been allowing us to explore the creative and technical components of animation. And how do we transition from a visual effects pipeline into an animation pipeline?
Animation has a really beautiful way of making sometimes difficult subject matter really palatable. I think that was definitely the case here.
This is a project that really allowed us to spread our wings creatively and technically.
The most exciting thing for me was seeing Weta move out of that super photorealistic animation style that they're so well known for, and finding that animation style that worked and made it all of a piece with the graphic style of Zach's artwork.
Because the mandate was like, Zach's paintings are going on screen. There's not some watered down filter that's gonna happen between the paintings and the screen, and Weta was fantastic. They would take his paintings, and the paintings would then be in Unreal, in 3D, and you can move around them. And a lot of times when that happens, you get like an approximation of the painting, or you get an approximation of what the original artwork is. They were actually able to take it and break it down to its core pieces and put it back together in a way that you can use it in filmmaking that was just incredible to me. I mean, I felt like it was a playground working with them.
Working with Dave was really special because he's very much an animator's animator. He was a 20-year Pixar veteran, so his eye for appeal and line of action and just really drilling down on the basics of basic posing before even moving into polishing animation, it was invaluable.
Dave and Brad gave us an enormous amount of respect and latitude to be able to contribute to the creative, which I think really helped the push-pull and really helped us make sure that we were never leaving a creative stone unturned.
For me, what was special about this project was how creatively involved we were, from the look dev and the animation style, and creatively figuring out what the story beats were and how the shots looked. And we were much more involved across the board for this production than we probably normally would, and we were also involved really early on, almost from here's a script, here's some artwork, here's some, here's a few storyboards, let's go.
We were able to really bring to the fore all of our technical and creative advances in animation, particularly because we saw it as an opportunity to create something that was unique.
You can't really compare it to standard visual effects. We had to build a whole pipeline to get this to happen.
One of the big challenges for this project was actually building the pipeline from how we would normally work in our animation workflow and our VFX workflow, going from Maya to creatures and getting things simulated and baked, and through to comp and rendering and being an offline renderer, moving that sort of production back the other way and going into Unreal.
So Unreal Engine kind of served as the ecosystem for the project. It was basically the sandbox where everything came together.
On this film, we feel like we've had lightning strike at least 6 times with all the great partners that came aboard, and I think it was maybe lightning strike number 4 when Epic had seen some of the early footage that we had done with Weta, and I think they were blown away by the fact that we were doing such a stylized approach to the filmmaking, and they immediately got involved.
WētāFX have been working with Unreal for many years now. And when Electro League came and they said that they wanted to work with us in partnership with Epic using Unreal workflows, it was a great starting point.
The main benefit of using Unreal versus, a traditional animation workflow is really about the responsiveness. There's an immediacy to the work where things are pretty much near instantaneous, and that allows for a level of iterations that you don't typically see on a project.
The decision to go with mocap was early on. It was one of the first things that we always knew that we would do, mainly because of the workflow that Dave and Brad wanted to implement, being shoot mocap early so that we could see it in Unreal and find cameras and find shots so that they could be editing quickly. So we would shoot some pretty rough mocap, get it into a situation where they could start moving cameras around and moving that into edit. So the plan was to always go with start with motion capture anyway, so you could iterate quickly on good performances.
I knew when we first started the project that the biggest hurdle was just going to be developing the visual style into something that translated well into 3D, essentially. Zach Retz, the production designer, came with really amazing, beautiful artwork, and there's so many details inside that. The detail of the brush work, the detail of the line work, but we had to figure out a way to translate that in a way that makes sense spatially and try to figure out what details are important to extrapolate from and kind of start to develop from there.
I just loved as well, the design language was really specific for Abel and Winston. So Winston's camp, for example, he as a character is very angular. All of the tents on that side of the battle are very angular. The hillside has these big, sharp, sort of mountainous, jagged rocks. And then on the other side of the battle, with Abel, everything's really rounded, and he's really rounded, and the mountains are really rounded.
I don't want to say I'm like Abel, but I think if you watch the film and then look back here, you'll see a very striking physical similarity.
So that sort of attention to detail, even thinking about how the characters are, their personalities, and then getting that to all reflect right through the design to the environments was really incredible. I thought that was great.
We were trying to do 2 things at once. We were trying a new artistic style, that Weta is not used to doing, and we were trying to do it with a tool that we had not pushed to that level, or anybody else has pushed to that level. So there were challenges on both sides of the camp, technically and artistically.
This is an exciting opportunity to showcase the skill set of our artists and showcase the talents of WētāFX as a creative partner and a creative collaborator to anyone who wants to make film across the globe.
As far as Weta's involvement with animated projects from this point on, I think this film is it's a great proof of concept that Weta can do it from inception to completion. We are capable and really excited about every step in the process, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is our calling card to say, hey, we can do whatever you need.
I see that animation and visual effects have a very close symbiotic relationship, and our pipeline is designed to be able to help create all CG content, and just moving the dials between photoreal and animated gives us an opportunity to move from film photorealistic CG content to animated content.